103 BTC, and it's been a very interesting weekend, but is it time for these alts to perhaps roll over just a little bit before we get our next bounce? So guys, I'm going to give you some reasoning behind this thought process. We're going to look at these alts. I've got some absolute banging entries for you, and some of those big zones from Friday have pinged for a couple of shorts that we have got running at the moment. So much to talk about here. Let's get right into it. Guys, and remember, as always, hit that like, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe. And I've got James in the house, and I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Mother's Day.
Is it a worldwide thing? Is it?
Well, I'm not sure. I asked in the Discord earlier today, and it's not the UK. I got that much. I'm not sure. Some places it is. Is it Mother's Day there?
It's Mother's Day where I am. So,
okay.
Yeah. Well, happy Mother's Day to everybody there. Okay. All the moms. Okay. All the moms. There you go. Okay. So Banter Bubbles Pie. I mean, it's always the one that I wasn't watching. 46% up. I mean, that's quite offensive. So we're just going to leave that one where it is at the moment. 𝗏, that's an interesting one. ETH ecosystem. That is waking up. I think it makes sense. A lot of these ETH plays are waking up. We can see that PEPE is starting to look good as well. And DOGE, interestingly enough, I just told James as we went live, I've jumped into a scalp DOGE long because I've seen a little 30-minute reversal. There might be a little bouncy coming on DOGE. And with that in mind, I'm also talking on DOGE higher time frames, and we're talking about some big targets for this DOGE. Okay, so we're going to cover that one for you guys as well. And Mr. Fox is here. He says, smash the likes for a Sunday. I concur, sir. Okay, let's talk BTC. Why is this bothering me a little bit? So, couple of things happening at the moment. BTC on the 2-hour. Now you can see we've got this bearish wedge rising at the moment here, and that's when you get a sort of a tightening of this. It looks like almost like a triangle, and you start getting this little pattern start playing out. And then sometimes you might find these things eventually start breaking down to the downside, and then we start looking for some bounces. So right now I'm tracking this one closely, and I'm still holding my BTC short from last week. There's no changes to that one. In fact, my top-up order was at 105, and I think we only went to 104.90, give or take. So I didn't get the extra order there. 104.986 is what it hit for me on my exchange. So that is the high that I'm watching at the moment. And in the 2-hour, that is basically my resistance band. So we're going to look at anything into this 105 region. You can see that will just be the top of this little channel that we're playing with at the moment. And then for me on the downside, well, if we start losing this little trend that's pushing higher, I'm going to start adding to that short. We're going to look for a little push lower down, and then I'm going to be watching things like 102.250 for the bounce, and then 100.500. Now 100.500 is a bit of a banger for me in terms of where I think this thing can go, because I'm not expecting a major market capitulation just yet. I think this thing can churn. I think this thing can go to all-time highs first before we get any massive corrections. But I think that we are capable of getting some kind of pullback. And with a couple of the signs that I'm looking at the moment, we just need to be reactive or react accordingly. So if we lose this lower trend there, I'm going to be adding to that short. Then I'm looking for a bounce. 102.250, 100.500. That's a bit of a banger there. And watch that area, that 100K level. And then you can see in terms of the 2-hour, we've got tons of spider webs, and it refuses to fall over at the moment. But this is generally considered a warning sign, or just to be careful. So these things can accelerate quite quickly, but because we are already drifting down quite far from this upside over here, you can see that I'm not expecting a massive dump in terms of downside. So we're going to play it accordingly. I'd like to see that 100-500 region hold. And then if you take a look at our 24-hour liquidation heat map here, you can see, and we're keeping it super tight. This is literally the last 24 hours. Look to the upside there, 106. That takes into account that upside of that bearish wedge that I've just shown you, and down to about 102, which is quite interesting. That takes into account that first little section there that I showed you on that 236 fib, that guy over there. So you can see we just try to play this thing, in between the ping pong zones for now. I'm not expecting anything major unless there's another major tariff bit of news or some other massive macro situation. I'm not going to get overly excited with where we are. So we've got a couple of news headlines for you that we are going to talk about. But I mean, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Now, Naive says Bitcoin this week. So let's just watch what it's been doing. There we go. 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 I suspect we're going to get it, James. I don't know. I suspect we're going to get all-time highs.
Oh, I think we are. Based on the news that you're about to show here, I won't spoil the beans here, but yeah, it's looking like, this is it.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, we're going to call it, I think this week we're going to get all-time highs. I do suspect there's going to be some kind of stop hunt first before they pump it up. Okay, let's talk about the news. Here we go. Amp Nikes. Okay, let's see. He's not a bad trader. He got manipulated by the tariff news into selling the bottom. Come on, who sold the bottom, guys? Come on. Who shorted the bottom? Even worse. Even if he shorted the bottom like that ETH dude, he literally shorted ETH. How much? $60 million at like 1.5. Literally something like that. Okay, let's talk about lickies here. $480 million lickies in the last 24 hours. Okay, so that is not good stuff. That means people getting chopped up this weekend. And I'll tell you what it is. It's guys with a lot of hopium going too high leverage, trying to be long, and they just keep getting chopped up all weekend. So that is 480 in the last 24 hours. Imagine they come for a little stop hunt later on before sending this higher. Now, this is interesting. This forms part of the news that we're talking about, but container bookings from China to the US are plunging. So, i.e., there's less orders going on. There's less action happening there, and it's not really a good sign. And I think it's a bad sign for both countries, and it means let's start speeding things up. Okay, Michaela Banks says she got liquidated at the bottom. Hate that feeling. Absolutely hate that. President Trump says the US negotiated a total reset with China during these trade talks. Now, those of you who've been paying attention, they're sitting in Switzerland at the moment, playing a bit of across the table handbags or whatever's going on. They're all obviously playing both sides at the moment. But after 8 hours of drama and no deal yesterday, both sides are back at it. Espresso in hand, tariffs in place. Trump's floated dropping his 145% tariffs to 80, but only if Beijing plays ball on trade and fentanyl. Now, I think it's going to be a better result than this, James. What are you feeling out there, sir?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Like you showed with the this is starting to hit pockets now, right? Just in Canada, this past week, numbers come in, unemployment's rising, the tariffs are taking effect, it's hurting economies, the shipping containers are down. This is about to get real here for everybody, including Americans. So now's the time they've got to make this happen. And they're announcing, look at what happened here with this one announcement. We went into FOMC, bearish as shit, came up with one trade deal. Was UK, it's a big country. And then everything just totally skyrocketed. Everything's looked friendly so far this weekend with China. I think we're in good shape to keep on going.
So, 𝗏𝗧, more trade deals could be coming as soon as this week. Now, yeah, that's why, look, guys, this is what I'm thinking. I mean, this is my view here, and obviously trying to be positioned for it. Got a couple of hedge plays running at the moment, but I think that next dip for me is for buying, and I'm going to show you a couple of reasons on the dominance chart. We're going to look at USDT dominance as well. I think that next pullback that we get, even if it's a small one, we got to buy this thing, because I think BTC goes all-time high before there is a major sell-off there. Okay, Ridcase is smashed the like entry. Okay, guys, let's go. Let's talk a couple of other things. S&P, this is the big one for me. I think we blow this 200-day MA this week. Obviously, it's speculation because we are under the 200-day MA, and we can't say what news headline is going to come out next or what bit of news. But I think, this is going to determine the bulls to the upside and the bears to the downside. And if we blow this 200-day MA 5750, I think we're okay. And this S&P starts grinding all-time highs, and you're going to see Bitcoin start doing the same thing. Okay. And Luke says, Jesus, James is bullish. Long everything 400x. Okay.
Uh-oh. Trade deals just been announced by the U.S. with China?
What?
Yeah, somebody said it here in the comments. I went to Twitter. Okay. It's all over Twitter. I can't verify at the moment.
Find me the tweet.
U.S. announced this trade deal in Geneva. I'll send it to you right now. This is from the White House, too.
The market pumping just yet, sir. The market's not pumping. Okay, we're going to talk about it now. Let's see. If we see pumpy, guys, then we're gonna long everything. Okay, if we see some pumpy here.
Everyone's eating dinner with mom at the moment.
You can see I'm short here. I got this short on Sol. Bang at 180. I'm going to talk to you guys about this now. Okay, we absolutely nailed the Sol short off the exact level that I gave you guys on Friday. So hopefully some of you guys did get that. Okay, so S&P 500, guys, the 200-day MA, that is the number, 5750. We got to blow that thing. If we blow that thing, we're churning higher. We're super bullish. If we stay underneath that, guys, you can see there are signs that, we might want to start rolling over. There's bearish divergence. It's not the best look at the moment in terms of the S&P. Now, if the S&P is pumping, what does this mean? It tells us that gold could be coming down, and this tells me that we should get a beautiful entry on gold. So unfortunately, I've been talking about this gold trade for 3-4 days already, and we still don't have our entry. So this is going to be a patient one. So I'm going to leave this one here. We'll pick this up again on Wednesday, Thursday, if the market is pumping, because if the market is pumping, no doubt we're going to see gold dropping into these types of zones, and we're going to get some kind of entry on BTCC. So right now, gold for me, guys, 3,250 down to 3,210 makes sense, and then 3,160 down to 3,140 makes sense to me for some bounce plays. Greg, what is pumping at the moment, sir? Let's see. No, Bitties is not pumping, guys. It's not pumping just yet. Okay, so there we go. That's the gold. That's the S&P. Now, let's talk all-time high. Wouldn't it be weird if the market absolutely reversed here and dumped to zero where we are not at a major level? So that would be weird for me. And for the things that I like to look for, I like to see the major reversals at major types of levels. So for me personally, I'm expecting Bitcoin to take out these all-time highs sometime this week. So even if on the short term we lose this little channel here and we have some kind of bounce, I am expecting that to get taken out. So 108 to 109 is my target that I'm looking at least, and we'll deal with it when we get there, and then we'll start tackling what divergence we see. We'll start deciding when we up there if that was the top or if this thing is going to go higher. But right now, for me, that is what I'm looking at the moment. And I saw a comment there about taking profits. Guys, I must say, this last run, I've been super disciplined. And obviously, if you're taking profits and the market keeps running, it can hurt you a bit mentally because you feel like you're leaving money on the table. But just remember the amount of times the market has reversed on you and how many times you wish you banked profits. So I'm using that mentality for myself. I've banked a ton of profits. We've had a really good couple of weeks here in the market, and now it's fine. You know, if you bank something, just hold on to it. Like, enjoy that money. And remember, if you're watching the show or you're in Chart Hackers, you're going to get spoon-fed setups and entries every single day of your life. Okay, this market is not going anywhere, and we're going to sort you guys out no matter what is going down there at the moment. Yes, sir. Why you got big eyes? What's going on here?
PEPE.
Whoa! Let's pull it out because I've got a little Pepsi. Pepsi here.
It's starting to push a bit.
Oh yes. Okay, here we go. Let's double up. Okay, let's go. Let's add some. Okay, we see. I've been sweating a little PEPE here today. Okay, so we're adding to PEPE here. PEPE at big resistance. I've got this chart prepped and ready for you guys. So we're going to talk about this in a second. Check here. We might have a breakout. So all I'm doing is I'm putting my stop under the breakout candle. Bang. Okay, we're just de-risking. So let's see if that candle breaks out. That's going to be an absolute banger. If it comes back now, all this work of sitting in this trade basically all day waiting for it to pop, it cost me nothing. Okay, so that's the idea behind this thing. Okay, we're going to get into that now. But you can see I've just added to PEPE, so I'm now $20,000 long. If we start blowing through this horizontal here, we're going to have another crack. We're going to add some more, okay? And then we're going to bring that entry higher because I want to see this pop, and then we want to see something along those lines, okay? Bruce is massive pump incoming. Fuck, okay, well, this could be fun. Okay, let's go. What am I interested in at the moment? So, okay, you can see our BTC. You know the highs. You know what we're watching. Let's not fall into a trap. Now, in terms of the RSI heat map, this is interesting because they were super overcooked on Friday. Now the alts have had time to consolidate, and they haven't fallen back that badly. All they've done is just float around the highs, nothing too serious at the moment, and this is quite nice. This might give it one more push now in the market. We haven't had a serious reversal just yet on these guys. So you can see we are overcooked, but not nearly as overcooked as we were on Friday, and they have had some time to breathe. So we're not at absolute panic stations just yet with these altcoins. And then in terms of USDT dominance, remember what this tells us. This says to us, is money flowing into the market or is money flowing out of the market into stable coins? So as long as USDT dominance is falling over, we know the crypto market is going up. That means they are buying altcoins, they are buying BTC. So interesting for me is we have now closed under the 200-day MA and the 618. So that is a great start for us. We've got a candle close under that region. And basically what we want to see is this USDT dominance start drifting to the lows. Now, I want to just highlight something for you. You can see on my oscillator here at the bottom that we are pretty much over sold at the moment, and we could under most circumstances be looking for some kind of hard bounce on USDT. But I want to show you this guy. The last time we got an oversold on this one, we saw another drop, okay, of quite a few percent there. Look at that, okay, before we bottomed out on that USDT dominance. Then there was another situation over here where we also got the reversal sign over there, and we did drop a little bit further down as well before we had a bounce. So that tells me there is chance that we do drop a little bit lower on this USDT dominance and just unlock that market a little bit more. And that tells me we'll get Bitcoin at all-time highs. We'll get some of these alts breaking those 200-day moving averages and those types of things as well. So something interesting here for us. That is a major level for us to lose that 200-day MA. Obviously very important for the things that I look for. And let's see if we can continue this move lower down. Now, we got the candle close. Just a reminder, doesn't mean we can't just quickly shoot up again. And we can just look at all sorts of resistance zones. So if we do close under there, but let's say the market turns bearish tomorrow, for example, if we pump into that zone, guys, that is what I'm going to look out for. 5%, look for that rejection to the downside. Okay, so I don't want to turn too bearish. There's tons of resistance in the way for USDT dominance, and that tells me we have room to churn lower. That means we have room to continue this downtrend, and as long as we are in this downtrend, that means the market goes up. Okay, so we look for pullback buys, we look for things like that, and we don't get too bearish when we don't need to be. Okay, so that is my plan at the moment. And Moontrade says XRP one big flag. And 𝗙𝗵𝗿 says he gambled away most of his money for fun. But 𝗙𝗵𝗿, let's get some bangers, bro. Come. Another one for us, guys. Dominance. Bitcoin dominance on the 12-hour at the moment. And you can see we've actually lost a rising trend. This is very interesting. We've lost this rising trend, and we've already had our bearish retest. Now, dominance is the one thing we quite like being bearish. We want this thing to start falling down. And you can see we've had our rejection at the 50-day MA. We've had our rejection at the previous VWAP. 382 and horizontal, and this could be a great sign for us. We could be pushing lower now on Bitcoin dominance, and things could be playing out pretty nicely. So my next major zone for me on dominance is 62%. So watch out there at 62%. If you do get some kind of massive alt push now in the next couple of days and we hit 62%, that is another danger zone there where I highlight for you guys again. That is a big TP zone on anybody long on altcoins, because that is most likely an area where you get quite a hard bounce on dominance, and then you can give up a lot of your gains. Okay, so 62.2%, that is a big area there for me. Be careful in that zone. And you can see now, the nice thing about this Bitcoin dominance is that the bulls are actually now in control. And I'm talking about the altcoin bulls are now in control, because when you get a rejection like this, and you hit these highs, now we know we typically start a downtrend and you get that lower high wherever it eventually comes. This could be it right now, for example, but you get that beautiful trend to the downside. And that is now obviously going to help some of these altcoins for us at the moment. Okay, I see this 𝗵𝗆's cooking. Come on, 𝗵𝗆. Guys, we will hopefully educate you in some breakout trading here. Okay, so we're just waiting for this thing to pop a little bit more, and then we'll keep going. Okay, so let's talk the big dog, the one that's come out of nowhere and just done a couple of things for us. I'm sure he's happy. I'm sure he's very happy. He's got to be happy, James. He's got to be.
Yeah, he's going to be so happy he's going to get a girlfriend, and we're going to dump again. Remember what happened last time you got a girlfriend?
Whenever he gets a girlfriend, we dump. This is true. True. It's all true, actually. So let's talk ETH. So, I mean, really, guys, I'm blown away by the price action on ETH. Look at that 200-day MA hasn't been hit yet. That is still an obvious target for me. So 2,700, 2,750. That is an obvious target there for ETH. And you will see I picked up Link and Sol shorts off the 200-day MA, and we're going to talk about those charts now. And for me, last week, I was saying GM. So for me, last week, I was saying we've noticed all these altcoins. They go 50-day MA retest, 100-day MA retest, 200-day MA retest. That is how I identified Sol and Link were going to those 200-day MAs. Now, ETH is obviously next, and we got a lot of altcoins that can still go to that 200-day moving average. So if I were you, I'd start sniffing around for altcoins that are attacking the 200-day MA, because those are going to give you some nice targets to the upside. And now let's take a look, or let's finish this ETH situation. So I've broken it down obviously into smaller time frames, but in terms of the higher time frames, you can see we've lost a major level and we are now under the 200 days. So technically we could be still a little bit bearish here on ETH, so we can't get too overexcited. But in terms of targets and things like that, it makes a lot of sense as to what we are seeing. So let's break ETH down into the 4-hour time frame, and you can see on the 4-hour we have turned a little bit short-term bearish. Now, you can see the last few times we did turn bearish on ETH, you can see this whole block over here. We didn't actually do much. So that was pretty interesting to me, actually. And that was actually a sign that these guys were loading up, that this thing wasn't falling over. They were supporting that price. They were just keeping it there the whole time before it exploded. So what is the next plan for ETH? You can see this is sharply bearish at the moment. We just typically want to see, to load up for the next move, we typically want to see a reversal print. Now, we don't know where exactly we are going to get that, but we're going to look for these green reversal dots on the next pump for ETH. And for me, we most likely get it at around about 2,320, that type of region. So watching this guy, that is the big one for me on ETH at the moment, 2,320. It's our most bullish 236 fib, and I don't want to get too greedy and start jumping in too early. For me, I'd rather just be a little bit patient. So 2,320, guys, watching that level. Then in terms of upside, 2.7 makes sense. And then if you take a look at this chart, you can see immediately there's a massive horizontal here. So I would say if we start taking out the 200, 2,880 becomes another banger zone to start paying attention to. Okay. Big DK says best long right now. DK, I took a scalp on Doge a couple of minutes ago. We're going to talk about that coin in a second. I've just tried a PEPE breakout play. We've just added to a PEPE long. So that is kind of what I've got in front of me at the moment, sir. Okay, so ETH to the upside, guys. You know the levels that I'm watching. Now, how do we get to this 2,850, 2,900? For me, I think it's a simple play, and look out for something like this. If it does pop from here and it hits that 200-day MA, you're probably going to get that rejection. And that is going to be sort of the game plan you want to be looking at there for ETH. So just look out for a rejection at that 200-day MA. It's quite likely if we do hit that zone that it does fall over there. And Abe says he wants to unload, as in take them, or does he want to get out of some of his heavy longs? Okay, let's talk SOL. And look, USMC says it's not guaranteed we will get pullbacks. Guys, the information is here in front of you. You can see we've got bearish signals on these alts. You can see the information I'm showing you at the moment, but what I am aiming for, obviously, is higher lows. I'm not expecting a full wipeout here on the market. I'm expecting Bitcoin to go to all-time highs this week. And with that in mind, obviously trying to pick up some buys on some of these alts, because we're going to have another trade this week on a lot of these altcoins. Okay, yes, sir.
Do you know how nice it is just to hear you say that? That we're going to go back to all-time high this week? Fuck! We're going back to all-time high this week.
I mean, I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong, but that is kind of how I'm positioning myself. Okay, so let's go SOL. Let's talk about this thing. So you can see SOL is short-term, a little bit bearish at the moment. You can see we've got the reversal on the 8-hour. Let me show you the 4 as well. And let's take a look here. You can see this 4 printing bearish divergence, and it's dropping quite fast. And I quite like that it's dropping fast, because it tells me we don't have to go too deep. We might not get a very deep pullback here on Solana, but very interesting, guys. I gave you this level. In fact, let me know in the chat. I told you guys 180 for SOL. It was the 200-day MA. It was the horizontals. It was a banger reaction zone for me. It was a banger resistance zone. Look at that order block as well that we had loaded up there for you guys. So we knew that we were going to get a reversal in that zone, or at least a reaction in that area. Now, for me, where do we go long for SOL? Where do I add to my Solana long that I've got running on LBank at the moment? So for me, it's got to be in this region now between this order block and the VWAP. So I'm going to say 166 down to 160. I'm not expecting SOL to go deeper than that this week, unless we have super bearish news here. I want to see that move. 166 down to 160 on Solana makes sense to me, and that is where I'm going to start adding to the SOL long that I've got running here on LBank. You can see it's $35,000. Let's actually just put in a limit order here right now at 160. So we're going to add it at 166, and let's add 10,000 here. Okay, so we're going to put our limit order there. Bang. Okay. Order placed. Okay, so now I've got a limit order waiting. So I've looked at the chart. I've looked at SOL. I've said, where's a reasonable area for me to add? 166 down to 160. So I've got a limit order waiting now. So if we drop in the middle of the night, it's going to pick it up in that region, and then we're looking for that bounce, obviously higher. We want to see this thing push a little bit higher. Okay, so that is that on Sol. And then in terms of upside targets, guys, well, 180 is the big one for me. If we start blowing through that, it starts unlocking your next bit of horizontals. Okay, what is the next bit of horizontals? For me, that is this 200 region over there. You can see that. Okay, so if it does start blowing through that zone, 200 is where it's at. That's going to be your next major rejection zone there. Okay, so look, if we'd seen Bitcoin at all-time highs and these things sitting at these types of levels already, then I'd be saying, geez, okay, I think it might be time for a full reversal here. But looking at the fact that Bitcoin is not at all-time highs yet, I really think that these things can go a little bit higher. Okay, one more level there. And Panda says, are we bullish or bullish? Jeez, bro. Well, I hope we're not. Oh, look at this PEPE. Let's add a little bit more here. Let's go a little bit more to the little PEPE here. Okay, there we go. So the average entry now 134. Okay, we're going to look at that PEPE chart in a couple of minutes, guys. Okay, so we got Sol, we got ETH. Here it is. Where's she? Okay, Link. Let's talk Link. So another one. And also bearish divergence, reversal prints, all these things. And you can see we hit the 200-day MA. And that is where I had that limit order waiting on Link. There it is. Okay. And we picked up the absolute top of that move. Now, that is now locked in. Okay, so let's see if we can hold that level and keep moving down to give us a proper buy entry or proper add-on zone for any longs, and hopefully a nice exit point for the short. So let's take a look. Where can Link go? So very typical game here we play. We just look for reversals onto, some high impact zones, some big reaction zones. So for me, no changes here. Lots of bearishness going on to the upside. Overbought, reversal print, blue dot, VWAP reversal, divergence. It's disgusting what we are looking at the moment. So in terms of where this thing can go, 15.8. That's a big one for me there. 15.8. I don't want to write off this whole region. I think this whole region can come into play here on ETH and still remains, on Link, and still remain super, super bullish here, guys. So in terms of resistance, 17.4, that's your resistance zone. Big support, 15.8 down to 15.3. Watch that area. Anywhere in this box for me, I would say is quite bullish this week. If we get a drop into there this week, I think we buy that, and we buy that quite hard. Okay, little PEPE has become big PEPE, says Sigma. And let's see, Ken says, major dopamine rush from this industry. Those that know what I'm saying. Metal, yellow, first red. What is metal, yellow, first red?
I think those are failed emojis. They type themselves out somehow when it doesn't read on here or something. Yeah, I see it a lot.
Okay. Okay, guys, remember 𝗠𝗆. Okay, let's not forget 𝗠𝗆. So 𝗠𝗆 ecosystem. What happens when 𝗠𝗆 does well? We need to start paying attention to a couple of things on the 𝗠𝗆 ecosystem. So just a reminder, things like Cetus. That's a DEX on 𝗠𝗆. Yes, sir.
Brew here with this comment, China coins will pump. There's a China deal. That's a really good point. We should take a look at some of these.
CFX.
Yeah.
I think it was Flamingo. What was the other one?
Well, what was it? PEPE. PEI, right? That was that big. It did really well.
Shit. Yeah, but it did. Okay, so guys, 𝗠𝗆 ecosystem, Cetus. Okay, that's Scallop. You guys remember Scallop? I think everyone gave me such a hard time in the chat, but I still think you got an 80% pump out of that one last time. There's momentum, bucket protocol, things like that. But Cetus for me is one that I would focus on. So let's talk about 𝗠𝗆 for now and just see where we are. But guys, don't forget, those are the ecosystem plays. When something is doing well, focus on those zones. Now, in terms of 𝗠𝗆 from last week, we spoke about a couple of big zones, and I gave you 3 high probability rejection zones. And look at this move this weekend, straight into that guy. Remember how simple this can be. You just look for those wick highs and on a higher time frame there, and they give you some very accurate zones that you can pay attention to. So in terms of resistance at the moment, 4.25, guys, 𝗠𝗆, that is your big resistance band. Where's your next target? So for me, Bitcoin at all-time highs, you probably see 𝗠𝗆 at 4.58, somewhere in that type of zone. And then in terms of downside plays, well, we keep it simple. 3.82, that is now on the table for me. 3.82 makes sense here, and then 3.55. Now, where will I close the short that I'm sitting in? Well, 3.55 for me makes the most sense in terms of this guy. Okay, so 3.55 is going to be my exit play for the short. And you can see I sweated this whole one out. Look at this fake out on the weekend. James, were you caught in this? Anybody? I mean, look at this. Pump through, Imagine how much they rinse people out. And this is why, guys, this is why I talk about having more space in your stocks. This is why, you know, I talk about a lot in hackers as well. I think a lot of the guys, generally, their stops are way too tight and their positions are too big. And then you cannot do things like I've done here, which is survive an entire SUI short without getting stopped out through that pump. Look at that pump. So basically what I did was smaller position, you know, lower margin, and allow it space to breathe. You know, you don't have to force things all the time with some of these trades. You don't have to have super tight stops. Just maybe have a smaller position. Then you don't have to get chopped up too often. Okay. Okay, so SUI, that short 3.55 makes the most sense for me as a nice, reasonable close zone there, 3.55, and then a little bit lower down, guys. If we do pump into that, I mean, it's a big high conviction long zone, 3.3 on SUI. Okay, high conviction long zone 3.3. I don't think we're going to see that this week. I think 3.55 is pretty much where we want to go. Maybe just a touch lower than that, but somewhere in that region makes a lot of sense to me. Now, let's talk about small position, big move. JR's been learning, sir. I like this man. He's learning. Small position, big move. That is all you need to do in crypto, and you can always play on momentum and start adding later on. Okay, so 𝗷𝗆 says, I still think the most amusing outcome possible would be for Doge to be the hardest currency on earth. This is Doge BTC. To me, it looks like a potential big flag pattern and new higher weights. Okay, interesting. Then we saw Ash Crypto drop this one. Doge pump equals alt season. Now, to be fair, we haven't seen Doge pump in a very long time. And whenever Doge pumped in the past, it started alt season, and just recently Doge broke out of its downtrend. If Doge pump continues, we will see a massive pump in altcoins as well. Okay, I agree with that. That makes sense to me. And let's take a look at where we are with Doge. So Doge on the higher time frame, and I've gone to 8 hour. And bro, Tyber, go G63, bro. That's always a banger. It's always a safe play. Okay, so in terms of Doge, bigger picture, what do we got? 0.265. We've got our extreme highs. You can see that was our rejection zone, 382. Look at that, 200-day moving average. Where have you seen that before? Okay, 200-day MA coming into play. What do these alts do? 50-day, 100-day, 200-day. Okay, very simple plan. Blow through, blow through, blow through. I spoke about a lot of blowing going on last week, and this is exactly what they've done. Now, in terms of big levels on Doge that I would pay attention to this week, I would say 209. That makes sense to me there, down to that 100-day MA. So anywhere in that region on the higher time frame, 209, or call it 21, guys. 21 down to 197. 2-1 down to 197 makes sense to me on Doge on the higher time frame. Now let's go in on the DGen basis, and I'll show you why I took a scalp long there on Doge. You can see what happened here. I've just gone full DGen at the moment. This is the 30-minute DGen chart. Okay, there's obviously something mentally disturbed about me that I'm now trading 30-minute charts on a Sunday afternoon, but here we are, and you can see we picked up double bullish divergence, look at that, and double reversal signs on this thing, and I saw that we were dropping into a typical 382 region there for Doge, and I looked at this and I thought, okay, I mean, this is reasonable to look for some kind of bounce here on Doge, and then maybe we are going to ultimately go down into that big level that I just shown you. Details of deal with China to be announced tomorrow. Yes, Tessa, thank you. That could be an interesting day coming for us tomorrow. So just to finish on where we are with Doge, short term, guys, there might be a scalp play on Doge. I wouldn't look much past that, okay, these highs. Okay, so that's the extreme for me at about 259. But in terms of where this can go on a short-term bounce, you know, you kind of just want to pull out the 382 or that 618. Look at that. Okay, banger. So 236, that makes sense to me. 0.236. And then you've got 0.245. Those are potential short-term little scalp targets there on Doge. And then I am looking at this bigger level lower down, this 2-1. Look at that. I've got a VWAP. I've got a lot of horizontals here as well, and that ties in beautifully with this guy on Doge. Look at that, okay? Bigger picture, guys. As always, zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and understand this in context is a much bigger level, and that's why this ties in very nicely in that box, okay? So we could easily see that dip into that box. I wouldn't go much lower than, say, you know, these types of regions in that area, okay? So you've got the picture on Doge, and if Doge starts ripping, guys, look, let's just remind you where this thing can go. And didn't we see this not too long ago during the Trump pump? Look at that. We saw 47 out of Doge. So there could be potentially you know, another 130% on Doge coming for us. So something fun to look forward to there, maybe at a later stage. Okay, so it could be a fun couple of weeks if this plays out. Now, John Marr says quality on-chain businesses have higher multiples. Hyperliquid market share went from 15% to 80% of trading volume for perps in 1 year. Now, you guys will note, Hype is a serious situation, and we've tried to short that thing a couple of times, and it gave us tiny little moves to the downside, and it keeps ripping and grinding higher. And for me, Hype is something that we really need to hunt for the next entry for, because I think this thing is going to grind. Okay, this thing is going to grind properly. And 𝗿𝗚𝗍𝗍 says mini alt season is upcoming. I concur. A couple of days, yeah, maybe he turns it into 5 or 6, could be fun. But just make sure, guys, just make sure you're in hackers so that you catch the shorts with us. Okay, we got to catch the shorts. We're going to ride this stuff down. And Panda says Hype disrespected him when he shorted. It disrespected me too. Okay, and that is why we're not going to go against the grain on this thing. We're going to look for a long on this Hype. So I've built a little plan here for you guys. And if we get a little dump during the course of the next day or two, that for me is going to be the first long zone for me. So Hype, anything from 22.6 down to about 21.4 makes a lot of sense to me on Hype. And the first trade for me is going to be about a 24% upside. And then we can start taking out things like those highs at 35. So that's about a 56% for us. Okay, so first zone for me, 22.6 down to 21.4 makes a lot of sense. And then backup plan, remember, you always need your backup plan, and your backup plan is going to involve your VWAP from the lows, your quantum reactor, your 50-day MA, your horizontals, and that is that whole box a little bit lower down, 20 down to 18.5 makes a lot of sense to me there on Hype. Okay, but first DGen play, you've got it locked in that region. Remember, all these charts, guys, they go straight into Chart Hackers directly after the show. For you, you can pick them up there. And then a reminder, on Sundays, David and I do the Sunday banger in Hackers, where we tee up the week, and we're going to go through tons of setups. We're going to take questions from the community, and we're just going to crack out and have a lot of fun, okay, on a Sunday night, which is what we do in Hackers every single Sunday. So if you want a part of that, you can join Hackers. The link is in the show description there for you guys. And let's see, Prime Trading says, amazing how you keep adapting to the market. Prime Trading, that is what we have to do. So, Crypto Rand says, eyes on W, wormhole, okay, printing a bullish inverted head and shoulders straight on the confluence with a main downtrend. Look, we've had a couple of banging W trades before, and I thought, let's take a look at this thing. And in terms of a spot play, at the very least, I mean, we've seen this thing rip. This thing can absolutely pump. So in terms of not hunting an entry too precisely, what I want to say to you guys is, if you like the look of this wormhole, which I certainly do, the 50-day MA is at 83. Okay, so it's about 15 or 20% down. But in terms of the upside where this thing can go, considering that Link and friends have already hit the 200-day MA, they've already hit the 100-day MA, there could be a lot of upside here for this W at the moment. So, you know, in terms of targets, 40% and 90%, I think, for me on W. And then that can obviously turn into much bigger things. If we do go back to where we were in December, okay, that's 300% for this W. Okay, so there's a possible 300% move for W on a spot situation. I would say if we close underneath the 50-day MA, we super bearish, 83. But anyone who wants to play some spot, these are some potential targets for you. 147, 199, and then obviously the big dog at 40. Okay, and Make Money Travel Enjoy says CAS ripping, and I don't have any CAS. Okay, unfortunately. Where's our Pepsi? Pepe's going a bit too. Here we go. Okay, Pepe's going. Pepe. Okay, let's look at Pepe quickly. Where's this thing? Okay, W. So guys, you got to play on W. You know what we need to do there. Let's go PP. Okay, let's see what's happening. So PP on the 2 hour. Okay, here we go. It's breaking horizontal. Let's go into a lower time frame here. And you can see what I like to look for in these types of setups. and this is a typical breakout setup. You look for these moves that get squeezy, okay, and you look for these pops, and then they ultimately come back down, and then you try and get the buy. So you look for that squeezy little setup there on these alts. Obviously, sometimes they run a little bit early. So in this example, PEPE is now gone a little bit early. Let's go into a lower time frame. Let's go 30 minutes and just try and decipher what we want to see. Now, typically, when something like this pops a horizontal, what you want to do is make sure that you're going to hold any bullish pullbacks, because if the move is real, the bulls need to step in. The bulls need to come to the party and make sure that they carry on buying, because otherwise all it is a squeeze taking out stops, and then they just send it back to zero. Okay, so what you want to see is it a real move? If it's a real move, it drops back typically to a 382, and the bulls start buying and the bulls start stepping in. So in terms of PEPE, 136 is what you want to be watching. This is going to be your support now in terms of this breakout play, 136. So a close under 136, pretty bearish then in terms of that. And then you might find that PEPE starts making its way back into the trend that you can see here, and we continue this move, okay, until we have another go at this thing, and then maybe it's going to be that one that gives us that move higher up. Okay, so look out there, 136. Anyone trading the breakout, 136, close under 136 could indicate that you're going to start drifting lower, and that is going to take you to 132 potentially. So you decide if you can handle that type of risk. Remember, if you lose the trend, then it's ultimately even more bearish, and things can start going straight to hell for you. Okay, so look out for that. And in terms of PEPE targets, let's just bang out some higher time frame targets here for you guys. Let's see where we can go. We won't get into too much detail here, but here is one. Okay, let's see. I think we are in roundabout this region. 160 makes sense to me. There's another one here, 146. And then we've got the big one there at 208. Okay, so those are some upside targets there for PEPE. Wow, that's quite aggressive, hey, James. That's quite an aggressive move, that. Okay, so those are the upside targets if it does play out. And once this thing starts ripping a little bit higher, guys, you can use that horizontal as your support. So if this thing does grind a little bit higher, okay, so let's say this thing starts pushing into the horizontal. Let's say it pushes into that zone. Then you're going to use that horizontal as your support, because what you're going to do is you're going to drag your fib up to the highs, and you can see you're going to tie it in with your 382. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, beautiful structure there. Okay, so you're going to get that rejection, and then you're going to look for that one to hold. Okay, and that is where you want to send it higher again, and that's where you want those bulls stepping in for you guys. Okay, let's go. Let's talk PENDLE. So I'm still trading PENDLE, as you guys can see, and I'm trading this one on Blowfin, and it didn't hit my add-on buys from last week, and I've had to now readjust them. So we printed new highs on PENDLE this weekend, so that has meant that I need to raise my add-on zone. So I've lifted my buy limits to 3.72. I'm adding there, and I've lifted it to 3.61. I'm adding there. So I'm currently got a $35,000 PENDLE position. I'm adding, it looks like 10,000 in total if we do get a pullback into that zone. And this is what the chart looks like at the moment. So you can see what we've got, fibs from the lows to the highs. And my first banger zone is the 373. Look at that guy. You've got wicks to fill as well. You've got horizontals in the way. You've got VWAP. So that's a beautiful zone, 3.73. And then a little bit lower down, I've got this 3.60. Makes a lot of sense to me on PENDLE. And then at the moment, still a little bit bearish. So looking for this to just reset. Once that resets, we should see PENDLE on these levels here, and then we can get some kind of bounce out of this one. Okay, so looking for higher there on PENDLE, and then the upside 4.3, guys, is what I want to see for PENDLE. You can see that is our 200-day MA in the way at the moment, and 4.3 is where I want to see this thing finish for us to the upside. Okay, and then let's cover virtual. And so you guys know I'm still sitting in this virtual. I want this virtual to do virtually magical things for me. Okay, so at the moment I'm still holding, waiting for some action, and I've added a little bit to this one so far on that last pullback that we got, and let's just plan this thing accordingly. So I'm obviously expecting BTC to go higher, and with that in mind, I want to see virtual hold these higher lows and keep grinding for us. So my average entry, let's just confirm, my average entry is now 1.54. Okay, my average entry is 1.54 on virtual, so that takes me to there. Okay, so at all times trying to keep my average entry below decent support. I don't want to put myself in a tricky position where I start losing it after such a good entry. So add-on zones, guys, back here, 183, you can add on there, 172 and 161. Okay, those are the add-on zones. You can see we might just have a downtrend here for virtual. We might just do this, and then we might get a big pop out of this thing. Okay, so that is what we're going to be looking for there on virtual. Watch those big levels. I'll make sure this chart is in hackers for you guys. Now, guys, remember, if you are watching this TA and you're thinking, like, what the hell is he talking about? What's a 382? What's a 236? What the fuck is a VWAP? You're wondering about all those things. Well, guys, good news is I've got an accelerator school for you where I teach you this stuff in very short, simple videos. You can learn how I do all of this stuff and start leverage trading in less than 10 days. Like, literally, you watch these videos, you'll get the concept, you'll see how I tie in that oscillator that I use, the order blocks, all the other chart prime things like the quantum reactor you've heard me talking about. I tie that in the course for you. You'll have a full-on understanding, and you'll also understand how I do some leverage trading, because in the workshops that I do for the course, you get exclusive workshops with me where I teach you leverage tips and tricks, as well as finding entries for these types of things. Okay, guys, remember, everything I talk about for you is all in the show description below. You can pick it all up there. Everything I've mentioned, all the exchanges, all the things that I do. There's me pointing my finger. Now we're going into our hackers live session shortly after this, and hopefully you're going to see all the hackers that are watching the show. We'll see you in the Sunday banger day with DJ and Dave. If you're not a member of Hackers, guys, come hang out. Such an absolute banger, this place, and such a great community. And James, thank you, sir. We'll see you a bit later. Good luck, guys. Big 24 hours ahead. China deal. Are we going to get it? Aren't we going to get it? So lots to look forward to. I'm expecting all-time highs this week on BTC. Let's see if they give it to us, okay? Good luck. We'll see you guys later.